going and doing other things. So we're probably looking at a decreased programming for the summer. And so I think the key things that we ought to be talking about tonight is what are we going to do about space for recreation? And with that intro, I will turn it over to Dorothy or Judy or both.
I was just going to give a little bit of a history. So the school currently, for those of you that don't know, Dorothy's Recreation Building is the log cabin that's at the high school in the parking lot. And that building will be coming down the last day of school, which is June 6th, I believe, or that week thereof. We've explored the option of moving that, and I got an email from Jeff Gatlin said that is not a possibility.
Actually, they've had people over there, and they're looking at auctioning it off. So I mean,
Well, Jeff sent me an email yesterday that said that the feasibility wasn't there, and they were going to demolish it. So.
Okay.
But at any rate, that is kind of what landed us here. So Dorothy is going to be out of a space. And so one of the things that I would like to put on the table is we have the building across the way. And in one of the unintended consequences is we didn't know the school was going to bond for $155 million and that Dorothy would lose her space. And so it's kind of like loaning somebody your car and you might need it back. So. And then with that, Dorothy can give you guys an update on it's kind of twofold. First, we don't have a home for recreation, and the second part is during the construction, I think we're gonna have some scaled back programming.
Well, I've been working at trying to not scale back a lot of things, but just do different things, putting in some hiking programs. I've got a gal that want to do some yoga in this band shell over here for little kids. I'm expanding a few things that I haven't done in the past, but also I'm losing my art teacher. I don't have any classrooms for art. The facilities are completely closed down to me. The campuses are completely closed, the high school, everything. And I totally respect that. They want to go in and just get it done and not have to work around people being in the facility all the time. So yeah, I'm looking at different programming and things like that. And my brochure is coming out April 1st, and I still have some stuff going on, but it's not, I don't have anything like basketball programs or art programs or anything like that. So I think that finding a space, first of all, is not something that you're going to move into a space and go, okay, we're up for business. You're going to find a space, and it's going to need to be modified, and you're going to need to figure out what you're going to do. And you're going to need to find teachers and put together programs. And in my view, it's just like when you move into a bigger house, your stuff expands to the house in which you've moved into. So just like
your analogies are really good tonight.
What?
Your analogies are really good tonight.
But if I had a space that was a bigger space, my programs could also expand to accommodate more people closer to campuses, and being in Basalt has always been my goal. I've always felt that recreation needs to accommodate people in Basalt as well as the other outlying areas. So it's up to you guys to give me some direction and tell me what you want me to do.
Okay, I have a clarification question. So the programming part is not, the space-wise, the schools, that's not a conversation. You're just telling us that you can't get in the schools, and you're doing other programming. That's just information?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the one that you want input from us is the space issue.
Yes.
Did you have a question right away?
Well, I had a question when you're ready.
Okay, so, Davis and I have talked about this. Everybody has talked about it with everybody. It looks like the question boils down to, do we want to use free space or do we want to rent space? And I don't have a clear picture of where some of these places are, whether they're horrible or big enough or expensive. I mean, I was looking at it, they were all priced by square foot, and so I was just kind of
Those examples that you have are spaces that would work. I had somebody show me a space that is, it's a floor that's full of office spaces, and to have kids running in and out of there is just not feasible, because you've got like a real estate company there and, you know, a mortgage company, and that's not gonna be conducive to that. Those spaces that you have there, they're downtown. There's a couple, one that's a storefront area. There's another one that's upstairs over here. It's a nice big area. Looks over the park. It's beautiful. But, you know, feasibility of having kids running in and out, I mean, it's not, we have to think about that. We have to think about that. That's what my program involves, is children.
Okay.
And here, if you mention, you know, that you're gonna have kids running around, you're gonna have basketballs being pumped up, you're gonna, also the space I need to house my equipment, putting it in a storage shed. I have equipment coming and going all the time. You know, I have 2-week basketball program coming, basketball's going out, soccer balls going out, footballs. I mean, it just is a constant movement of equipment, so.
Okay, so then one more clarifying question before we move on to everybody else. So of the spaces that would work, what is the range per month? Don't give it to me by the square foot, but just like per month, what would it cost? From the bottom to the top of?
Well, 1,500 square feet would be ideal. 1,300 would be okay. And those spaces, they go from $19 a square foot to $35 a square foot.
Can you just tell me the monthly total?
So that's
of,
like 20, what is it, $2,500 a month.
And on top of that, we'd need to add general liability insurance and utilities.
oh, okay, liability plus utilities. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Gary?
Well, the question I had was, you know, I get a lot of questions of why can't Basalt Recreation and Crown Mountain join together to be a recreation piece for the valley? And I know you've explained it before, but in this context, before making a decision on housing and stuff like that, can you talk about that?
First of all, that's still far away from everything. To have an office out there at Crown Mountain, how many times do you have to run back and forth to the gyms here? And one of my goals has always been to keep recreation in the town of Basalt. We've never really approached that with the board as well. We did with Woodsy.
Yeah.
And I think you guys were here when Woodsy brought that up, when Scanlon was here. And it wasn't, they wanted to be subsidized to take over recreation. So that was how that was brought up. And that completely got nixed in that mix. So, if that's something that wants to be brought up again and figured out how they can afford to do the recreation that we do, then we'll have to bring that conversation back up again.
Plus, can I just throw in, Gary, you may not be finished, that space out there, I've been out there a number of times, is about as big as a postage stamp.
Yeah,
The indoor space is non-existent.
Their office space is not very big. Their building is filled mostly with field equipment and things like that, which, you know, I'm sure it could be moved around, that's no doubt, but, to be able to do some of the things that we do, they don't have the IGA that the town has, so that would have to be addressed. I don't know what their goals are.
That could be part of a longer-term conversation, but it certainly is not something that was gonna fix us by
June
another
1st.
30 days. I mean, we gotta be figured
Yeah.
out before June 1, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have another one. Davis, did you have an opportunity to take a look at the lease that we have on the
I did.
art-based building? And can you tell us a little bit about what is the story on that?
Okay, the lease,
The out and all that?
was $5 a year for 5 years. Then there was a maintenance fee, I think of $2,500 a month,
A year.
a year for the facility. We have talked to Art Base about that, and they're behind. But I got an email from Jenna today, and they got a contribution, anonymous contribution or something. I don't know anything more than that. To the lease termination provision is 24 months.
Okay.
And there has been conversation with her. Jen and I went over and met with her a week ago or so, and
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, time flies. And, we had a fairly candid conversation about this whole dilemma for us and the fact that there's space there that we own and they're occupying, and talked about the current financial situation there. And, it wasn't an adverse conversation, I don't think.
No, au contraire, yeah, very positive, recognizing the programming that they do there. And that's part of what we are aiming here for, is vitality for various age groups, the arts, the humanities, athletics. How can we meld all that together, and recognizing that we have 2 vibrant programs, and how can we juggle all of that together, and what's
Right.
the ideal space?
So Davis, are you saying that we have to give 24 months' notice? Is that the deal?
That's what it says.
So that wouldn't really help rec.
That's not gonna help,
Right now.
unless you can kind of have some negotiated change in that space and their occupancy thereof.
Okay, so we're gonna have to pay for something no matter, for a while.
For a while. And the other thing we said is if the council said, pursue the space where Art Base is, I had said I would be interested in creating some kind of a soft landing if they had to move to another location.
Okay.
Jen, did you want to add anything to that?
It's just adding to, we can solve, it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. We solve one problem, but then we put another thriving organization into the same boat. Of if the Art Base had to come up and move and change their programming for the entire summer when they have that set, it's just, it doesn't logically, I'll leave my opinion out of there.
Mark?
When does the trigger for the 24 months occur?
If you were to say, I think the lease expires May of 18. So, you could say tonight, give them notice, and the lease would expire before that notice could be implemented.
Who does a 24-month lease?
Never heard of that before. I've never heard of anything like that.
I've never heard of one that long.
Well, this,
It was a surprise to me, because what I've seen in other arrangements where a municipality's leasing property is usually a 30-day or 60-day kickout.
Yeah.
But I was sort of surprised to see that. And I'm not an attorney, so maybe Tom ought to take a look at that, but that's what I read.
And if we can't
Katie,
meet
then
it.
Tom.
Go ahead.
Just a sec.
So from my understanding, I understand that our building is being torn down, and there's gonna be massive construction, which is why we can't have access to the facilities. Once that construction is over, is there any opportunity for us to occupy space within the school? I have asked Jeff Gatlin that.
I've asked Jeff Gatlin that. They are so short on space that, I've looked at, I've asked, and particularly about, maybe it's not the high school, but what about the elementary or
Red
the,
Brick or-
yeah, because that's kind of our age group is, and predominantly, that's more of what I'm worried about is, the proximity to, those kids could walk down here if there's not a bus, and right now, you know, the beautiful part about it is these buses deliver them to Dorothy. So, you know, I don't know, but we've asked and we've asked, and I don't think so. And their numbers, their enrollment numbers continue to increase, so I don't see that that's gonna change unless there's something, you know, nobody has a crystal ball, but with things that are programmed right now, the answer's no.
Tom, did you have
Well,
comments?
knowing 2 years ahead, how long would the lease be? What would the lease term be?
It's a five-year lease.
5-year lease, so knowing at the end of 3 years what your needs are 2 years from then, I mean, it's ridiculous. Usually, the tenant, if you're a good tenant, you get to decide 60 days before the end of the lease at your option whether you want to renew it or not. So I think that suggestion is, I wouldn't recommend taking that at all. It's highly onerous for the town. I mean, you can do it, it's not illegal, but you're really putting yourself in a tough spot.
Aren't we already in that position?
We're talking about the existing lease, not a proposal.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
it was in a proposal.
No, it's
I-
the existing lease.
Ugh, I didn't know we got into a lease like
It's
that.
already in there.
So,
You need to look at it.
so, yeah, I haven't seen it, but we're how far into it right now?
4 years.
So we're past the
Yeah,
time,
24, notice
And-
now is the lease would expire.
and so it's gonna automatically expire unless we negotiate a new lease.
Friend, for years. Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to go back to asking more questions about into the future. I know that we have this crunch within the next 30 days, but let's think about beyond the summer, next summer, and into the future. Will we be able to, let's clarify, will we be able to use the gym space at the schools?
Oh, yes, we'll keep our IGA. That's something that I fight really hard for, is to keep that IGA with the schools, because that's the facilities that we use for a lot of things, but classrooms are really hard to come by with that. The gyms and the fields are the things that I use mostly with the schools. A lot of times I've used that area up there in that building for classrooms of my own, smaller classes that I've used.
And Jen, just for a point of reference, inside your budget, we paid for courts, we've paid for resurfacing of the field. We've paid a lot, and that's kind of, that IGA agreement is for the improvements to their fields, so that we have that, available to us. And that's been a long-standing IGA with the school district. And that's you'll see it in 1064 in that budget. That's the rec budget.
Okay, great. And so then, next on that line of thought is, you mentioned that there's art programming that the rec department does, and there is the art base right next door that does art programming. Is there a way to combine the two and have a Town of Basalt sponsored children's art class at the art base that is subsidized to meet Town of Basalt pricing? Or-
Sure, that's what's attractive to a lot of our classes, is our classes are inexpensive and are all-inclusive to all the kids. We, $30, $40 maybe is what we charge for an art class, or maybe even not that. Some of them are like $12. So that's kind of one of the things that I've tried to make sure that everybody can afford to do these classes.
Katie?
Okay, this is not gonna be popular, and I have not vetted it. It's just an idea.
You know what? Somebody needs to get that microphone into this woman, please.
So, when we look at this retail space, it certainly doesn't look like it's gonna be, very useful for a rec department. We're also talking about combining art classes with art base. We still need to explore the lease. And I apologize for throwing this at Susan at this moment, just brainstorming. But is there a way in which the rec center could be moved to planning, and planning gets moved to an office space? Because it just seems more fitting for an office to move to an office, and an organization or a program that needs fields and places for kids to run and not get hit by a car. I know this is probably highly unpopular, but I'm just throwing it out while we're brainstorming.
Could you say it again?
Planning moves to office space,
Well, we
And
have
rec moves
existing
to-
space in this building, which
Yeah,
I
like
said,
5
and I was
rooms.
just as unpopular, Katie,
Okay,
is having Dorothy take the front half if the art base is, if there's no way to negotiate that the art base take the front space until such time, and then the planners move back over here, and we'd have to shuffle some things, but we have empty spaces up front. But I was equally as popular.
Well, I mean, I think as a long-term redesign the building, you know, it's certainly valid space for that. If you're really reorganizing space. I mean, right now, I mean, we're under a lot of pressure at the planning department to get a lot done. And so to kind of strode us inefficiently, I mean, I would explore it, sure. It's just that, you know, us being able to be in an organized, kind of contained space is kind of important. I think it's a long-term thing of reorganizing all the spaces. It probably is a good.
Mike, please.
Bernie? Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with what Katie is saying, that I think we need to reorganize our two big spaces on Lions Park, which is where the art base is, and this building, and completely redesign them and do this at a reasonably soon future date to get this going. I think, you know, we have an unfortunate lease apparently without looking into the details. I think hopefully we could negotiate and offer some enticements that might make the art base willing to give up their contractual rights early. But I think that is the direction to go, and I don't have a good answer for the question that's facing us.
Davis?
Mayor.
And then Gary?
Susan mentioned to me just before the meeting here, a conversation with the school district on other things, but the red brick came up. And I don't know that the timing works for this, and I don't know that it's even an option. It just was something that was mentioned in a conversation, and do you want to add to that, Susan?
No, I mean, James met with Jeff Gatlin this afternoon on affordable housing, and he didn't commit that he could temporarily put Dorothy in the red brick, but he said, James, you were the one that had the conversation.
He said that there might be one classroom open for the summer. That would be the only space. Doug, come up.
By the way, we're getting some additional microphones and a bigger box. So hopefully by the next meeting, this won't be a challenge.
James will still have to come up and talk into one.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, and that's a completely different story than what we've asked last week about the red brick. So if there is or isn't,
He said he would have to check into it. Go ahead, sorry.
There's two spaces that I have actually looked at, and one space has been taken over by counseling, and another space I looked at that had chairs and boxes and tables stacked in it. Deb Morrison said that she uses it for Camp Chiptooth. Those are the only two spaces that I have seen that is available at the Red Brick Building.
Gary?
So what I would say is, you know, we need to find a short-term and a long-term solution. So a short-term solution is to find
James.
space by June 1st. And if it is a rental, it's a rental. If magically something can work with a school district or somebody's watching on TV and wants to help us with some space, I feel, you know, we're not going to solve the issue here. We really need a short-term solution. So from June to probably June 1st of 2018, Dorothy has a home. And then I agree with Bernie and others who have said we do need to look at reconfiguring all our spaces. It's got to be something that, you know, a new town manager or the next town manager is really tasked with, because it's a big budget implication. And it's also a big, you know, pain in the butt for staff, because moving, I just did it, and it is not easy. It takes months to deal with all your stuff, move it. It's not like you just move it and you're set up. It's computers and all this other stuff that goes along with it. So I truly believe that we need to put that on the list for the next town manager. Is we got to figure this out, because, you know, there's a lot of different pieces to this, And, you know, when Auden came in, he was talking about this room itself. How do you configure this? And, you know, right now it's pretty inefficient. So that would be my recommendation, is to go find something, lease it if need be, come back with the budget, and then let's do a longer term look at all the spaces.
So instead of Dorothy moving twice, would we entertain helping Wiley or Art Base, whatever, move once and then we move once? Because wherever we talk about short-term, Gary, I'm worried about if it's downtown, these kids get dropped off in the middle of a parking area. There is nowhere, I mean, I don't know how we do.
You're gonna also deal with the art base. How are you gonna figure that out in 3 months? Basically, in 3 months, how are you gonna figure the art base piece out in 3 months? And I guarantee you, it might sound easy, but once we start talking about moving them out, we're gonna get a ton of people in this room saying, don't do it, don't do it. And you're gonna get into the politicals. We're 7 people. I hate to move twice, but I'd rather, you know, move it and get a short term so you can do your programming and look for a space and see what it is. And I'm not against spending a little bit more to get a better space. That's me personally. But I really, to try to deal with that and the politics that come with moving that, you know, if you could figure something out and magically it all works, great, but I don't see it. So until I see it, I mean, I'd rather just get this moving.
We've had a real estate agent looking for spaces for us, and that's part of the problem, is I don't know what the answer is, and it's the same short period for Dorothy, for the rec program. There is no, you know, is upstairs ideal where you have kids running up a set of stairs and you have people below it? We've looked at town hall. I know what it's like to work in here on a Sunday when we've allowed programming in this building on a Sunday. You might as well just pack up and take your stuff home. So I don't know. I don't know, but it's not for lack of trying. We have looked, we have real estate people looking, and I don't know where we go.
Auden had something.
I mean, I agree with you, Gary. I think this speaks to the need for us to find the money or tax for the money to deal with some of the infrastructure problems we have, which include public works shop. But I do want to push back a little bit. I don't think that Art Base taking over that space makes sense. That is something that is providing programming and vibrancy for the town. It's everything we say we want in the community. And to say, oh, well, they should go out so we can do this in the short term, I think it's short-sighted. Dorothy, as you know, I have tremendous respect and participation in your programs. I think we have to, you know, we have to keep looking, but this is a longer-term problem. We have severe.
You wouldn't move them, you wouldn't move recreation over there in a year from now when the lease is up,
Nope.
even though we own the building?
Yeah, but I feel like it's being used for a good cause that the community supports, and one of the things we really want is the lights on and people on the street, so I wouldn't support that.
Well, there's a couple of things that, you know, Davis and I have talked about, and, I mean, it's just like the elephant sitting in the room, and that is, right now, this is gonna cost us about $3,000 a month of unbudgeted money. And if in fact we make a commitment that that building that we own is never gonna be ours, then we are eventually gonna have to start either buying, building, or renting space for the rest of staff who are not gonna fit here anymore. So I just think that, you know, I agree with Gary that I don't wanna be hysterical about this and make really quick decisions about shuffling this and this and this and this, but if Dorothy can't find some place that's safe and adequate, then I don't know what we do right now. But I would hope that, at least for the short term, till we can have a proper planning process on where we're gonna house all of our workers, for Christ's sake, that we try to find some place for Dorothy that's safe and works. And it sounds like you have been trying. But we are on a very short clock here, so,
Well, the things that I've given you in your packet, that's as far as I've looked. I haven't actually walked them, and I suppose I could go out and do that. I've got a lot of things going on right now, but I could go out and walk them and see what they are and see how well they'll work as far as that goes. And, you know, I understand that. I don't want to be the bad person and kick Wiley or Art Base out. I mean, I don't want to do that either. But, you know, I just think that, like, we're growing, and we're all gonna need space, you know? Public Works is gonna need space, and if you're gonna build a space for Public Works, put something there for recreation. I don't know. I don't know how, you know, I don't know how you guys are gonna figure this out.
Jen?
In the short term, it seems logical to rent a space. So I don't think I'm going to say, I don't feel that that's off the table. I think that's a realistic, viable option, though we do not have the monies budgeted for it. And the only other viable thing that I can spaghetti on the wall is leasing or purchasing a storage pod that goes in Merino Park or along the parking here, that the athletic gear goes into, and Dorothy uses a space within the town hall area, either in planning or upstairs for her office space. Recognize that doesn't work with kids running up and down. Or option 3 is we have been tossing around, or there has been outside talk from the public of what about affordable housing on Merino Park? What about town expanding into those areas, purchasing a single wide trailer? Those are not insanely expensive, and having that in the area. And that eventually moves into Public Works, or it can be utilized one way or another. It's been a solution that the town has utilized in the past, is modular office space.
Well, what is the school district, I haven't talked to them. Glenwood Springs Elementary, when they're redoing it, has a lot of, you know, temporary classroom space that they've been using as classrooms for many, many, many years, and now that school is being redone, what are they doing with all of those pieces? So, you know, I can help check into that, but, I mean, that's a simple call to Jeff and say, what are you doing with those? Because I don't know if they've been taken off or anything, I'm just, you know.
But from a financial perspective, what are we recommending for a budget? And I guess my question is, what do we wanna cut? If we're trying to keep our balanced budget that we worked hard for, where do you want me to look?
Right.
Or
Can
are
we let Auden go real quick here, because he may have something?
Well, quickly on that, I'd say, how much is this? Is it a summer of 10 grand expense for rental? I'm okay with busting the budget on that if that's the case, or cutting into the reserve. What I was gonna say is, this is a hard problem. We don't have an answer. One way to solve it is to ask for help. And I've just emailed Aspen Skiing Company to say, do we have office space or other space we can use? If anyone has space we can use, this is a good program. It's a stopgap. It's not permanent. We need help.
Well, let me ask this, Davis, and everybody, if this is what we're hearing. We need to find short-term space for Dorothy now, basically. And I would suggest that Davis and Dorothy go out there and walk these spaces and actually look and see what they are, and that, you know, anybody who's got leftover trailers, I don't know where we would put them, and Skico has leftover whatever, but I think that we should consider this short-term, because for long-term, I don't think this town wants to cobble together this stuff forever and say over here and over there and over. I mean, I think eventually town needs to be in one place, wherever that is. So, but I think for now, we don't have a choice.
And Paul and Clay have that property out there by the high school that they might be willing to let us use for a short time.
Okay. They have buildings or something out there?
No, just vacant land.
Oh, vacant land, so you maybe put a
Trailer.
modular on there or something like that? Yeah.
Wouldn't you have to put some kind of infrastructure as far as
But you're gonna
electricity
need
and?
bathrooms and stuff, yeah, you would, but
Okay.
typically it would be.
Something that we readily do have is employee housing. We have residential that is in the core. Just throwing wild ideas out there. I don't think that maybe the neighbors would be so psyched to have a gaggle of kids. But we own it, just saying, things, if we're on the list of things that we do own
Okay.
that don't cost us money, we will be missing out on the rental income portion of it, but it may be less.
Right.
We're not paying out to, we're paying ourselves rather than paying, an outside.
Okay. Anybody down, Davis?
I think, there's been some good conversation here. We don't have a solution, but there are some options that we'll pursue between now and, say, the next meeting. I'll work with Dorothy and Judy on that, and we'll come back with something.
Okay, if we could see the likely one or two spots and how we're gonna deal with it budget-wise, whatever it ends up being, whether it's just strictly rent and utilities, or if we have to do remodel or fixes, or what it's gonna actually cost us and where is that money gonna come from? That would be good to know.
I'd make one note about going bankrupt, which
Mic-
clearly we
microphone.
wouldn't, that Auden jokingly alluded to, but we do have a balanced budget, and we do have a fund balance that's in balance with our policy. We don't want to break it. The policy allows us leeway to the extent that we have an emergency or a unique opportunity to take advantage of it. We have it at the full statutory level. I, for one, being on the Finance Committee, would not necessarily object to at least looking at and listening to an argument to tap that a small amount, which is, I think, we're looking at, even if it's 100,000, it's still, I'd like it to be less than that, but whatever it is, it's a relatively small amount spread out, and then we come right in to our summer 2018 budgetary process, ready to consider this emergency need in our 2018 budget and going forward.
So, do you feel like you have a plan?
I don't feel like I have a plan, but I have things to investigate, and we'll bring
That is a plan. Okay, Dorothy, anything else?
No, on a lighter note, I have an RV that I could park over there, and, I mean,
It could be the office, and, okay,
we're gonna have to get creative.
yeah. Well, thank you for
thank you.
the information, and, we
Thank you
knew,
for
we
listening.
knew we had to talk about this
Okay.
eventually. And thanks, Judy, for the info.
Thank you.
So, good to go. Okay, so that leaves us a tiny little bit more time for our next item, which is BPAC Annual Report and Work Program. Nancy?
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Why don't you guys all join? Come on up, gang.
Just to remind everybody, we do have to use these microphones, or else the people out there just see our lips moving.
And you'll be yelled at from the guy in the back,
Correct.
Admonished.
admonished.
I depend on that guy in the back to yell at us. Okay, so Nancy, or whoever else is coming up, if you could just
Okay.
introduce yourselves briefly, and also let me just say quickly that, so we have 20 minutes, right? Or 5 minutes?
Excellent.
Oh, right. So,
Well, I'm Nancy Lovendall from BPAC. I'm the chair of BPAC, and these are the other commissioner colleagues here with me, and as time is so short, I was going to speak first, and they'll be available for questions after. Our purpose in coming to council today is multifaceted. Most importantly, we are here to begin a strong relationship with you to build trust that BPAC can become your source for all things public art, as well as familiarize you with our mission and program, and to clarify our role to assist you. In summary, we were established by the council in 2015, mandated to fulfill the mission of creating and producing a public art program to serve the diversity in our town. Our goal is to put Basalt dynamically at the center of the public art map. We want our projects to become must-see, must-stop events attracting locals, valley tourists, and destination art lovers from everywhere. These people will rent bikes, have dinner, purchase goods, and on and on.
Our organizational structure is the same as Post or the Sign Committee. As examples, we are a town commission and serve at the request and pleasure of council. We are not analogous to the Art Base or the Arts Campus at Willits. We sought to aim high, designing a unique public art program to enter the growing Basalt and Valley art scene. In summer of 2016, we initiated a program called Confluence 3, launching the first of 3 temporary public art installations to be exhibited for 2 years each over a 6-year period cycle. Confluence 3 began by your passing the 1% for Arts ordinance that fall to secure program funding, followed up by our developing all of the related brain-numbing infrastructure needed to accomplish our program start. Confluence 3, Phase 1, will premiere June 9th, kicking off Basalt's summer season. 10th. Strike. June 10th. Our concept is appropriately discover that which connects us all. We chose Win Bazel's 5-part interactive sculpture due to his ambitious creative vision, the highest technical quality, and utmost safety features. Future concept criteria will change to accomplish the variety we seek in Phase 2 and Phase 3. Then we'll assess. 3 projects made sense to us. Basalt is at a confluence of unlimited potential at this time of positive community change. We want to show residents the range of possibilities of what public art can be before installing any permanent sculpture. Our commission was set up to be funded by 1% for the arts so that we don't compete for the same funds sought by other Basalt nonprofits. For those of you new to the council, it was approved to be included in all eligible public construction projects within the town of Basalt. When the eligible underpass was recommended to become ineligible for funding by the acting town manager last fall, our program was defunded. 2017 funding for BPAC was pulled from other town sources because our first phase was so deeply in progress. We are now seeking sources to complete our 6-year plan to fund Phase 2, which will be installed June 2019 to 21, and Phase 3 installed from 2021 to 23. Our financials list data, examples, showing why instituting a public art program is good business for Basalt. The value of spending money on the arts is well known and well documented. Our goals for 2017 include a request to be included in all public arts conversations so that we can discover unexpected opportunities to add public art in town projects and advise council more appropriately. As we responded for you in the recent citizens' complaint letter, we can also provide insights improving our mutual mission of building an arts economy for Basalt. We would have appreciated being in on the discussion to defund the 1% for the arts in the underpass project to offer the pros and cons to that decision. In closing, our committee met with many of you individually to hear your questions and concerns about the arts. We want you to know we hear you, we understand you need help, and we're here to help you. We look forward to continuing this conversation during the next months as we move forward together. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Nancy, maybe you could introduce everybody that's,
Sure,
that's
please.
here.
Sure. Why don't we introduce ourselves?
I'm Jeff Horslack. I'm the representative.
Thank you.
See,
Thank you
yeah.
back there.
Getting scolded.
I'm Jeff Horslack. I'm the representative on the board from the Arts Campus at Willits.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'm Lauren Wilder. I'm a freelance artist, theater professional.
I'm Guinevere Jones, and I'm the Basalt Middle School art teacher and a Basalt resident.
I'm Nicole Levesque. I'm Basalt resident, audience development for the Wheeler Opera House.
And I'm Julia Novi. I'm a former gallery director here in Basalt, and I'm an architect.
Great, thank you.
And I'm a full-time professional public artist, which is how I was voted to be chair at a meeting I didn't even attend.
That's how it always works. You should know better. So I know that on the agenda, it just says, you know, you're presenting the annual report, and it looks like we are not gonna have time for anything other than that, but I think we do have something on a future agenda, is that right, Susan?
Well, we put, you know, a larger discussion as a work session item at the next meeting of just about arts themselves. And I know that, you know, in the memo, you see a lot of the questions that the BPAC put out for you. And I think, you know, one of the big discussions is just how are they funded? And it really comes to the use of maybe other money that we have that we're using for arts, and you know, how do grants are made, and that. So that's not something that we can do in 3 minutes, but I think this group would like to kind of throw it out that they'd like to be part of that discussion, and they have some ideas, but it's a longer discussion.
Well, we could have maybe used all of our time more wisely, because we are gonna have you back, it sounds like, in a future meeting, and we have no time left right now at all, and I apologize for that, but we had this preceding item that was an emergency. So, thank you so much for coming in, all of you.
Super quick comment.
Yes, quick.
I would just say thank you for serving on this committee, and thank you for your work, and I think we all recognize the value of public art, not just ethereal value, but the economic value. So I look forward to the discussion of how do we ensure ongoing funding, how do we make sure that this cool work that you're working on right now can happen into the future. So,
Thanks,
We
Audrey.
also asked them
Thank
to
you.
be
Okay,
cognitive of if they
12-minute
know space
recess.
for
Space for-
We do need a roll call, so I guess we're not going to go any further for a minute.
She's coming. She was just getting something.
Yeah, I think she was shutting them.
Yeah. It's so quiet.
For all of those who are interested, the Basalt community, I'll do a little,
Do a little
I'll do a
community
commercial-
service.
An advertisement.
Commercial advertisement moment. The Basalt Community Gardens, west of the Basalt High School, garden plots are available starting March 11th. That was 3 days ago. You could get your garden on. My rhubarb is already coming up, so it's never too early, and I'm already watering. It's $40 seasonal rental fee for an 8x10 plot, plus a $40 refundable deposit. And that includes water and sun. So you can reserve your plot by calling or emailing Jerry or Gail Twilliger or basaltcommunitygardens@gmail.com.
And if you order now, you get the free cutlery set.
But wait, there's more.
And a set of sunflower seeds.
Okay. We called the meeting to order. Pam, we're just waiting for a roll call.
Oh, really? Sorry about that. I went to get a new disc. We're running low. Gary Tenenbaum.
Here.
Mark Kittle.
Here.
Jackie Whitsitt.
Here.
Auden Schindler.
Here.
Jennifer Riffle.
Present.
Ernie Grauer.
Here.
Katie Schwer.
Here.
A-team is present.
Thanks, guys. Just a reminder for everybody who's here and who isn't here, that we just ask that everybody keep their comments to 3 minutes, us too, if we possibly can. And also, we have a duplication on our agenda, it's regarding the
Safe harbor.
discussion on safe harbor. So there's something at 7B at 6:40, and then it's on again at 7:10, or, yes, at 7:10. So I would sure like to get a motion to move that, or just get rid of the 7:41, so that people can make sure they are able to get here for the discussion. So I don't know exactly how we do that, if we just say,
You want to move it later or have it
I mean, we don't need it really at all. It's already listed
You want
as,
the 6:40 to remain?
I want it to go away.
Oh, I make a motion that we,
Kill it
no, that we move the 6:40 to the time that's stated later,
at 7:10.
at 7:10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, guys. So, we have a special guest here tonight from Basalt High School. Stephanie Tavares is here with someone else, please. Cheyenne, you guys, can you come up here to the microphone? So Stephanie, I have an informal group that helps me with advice, and it's called the Mayor's Cabinet. Go ahead and sit down. Yeah. And Stephanie was recommended to us by a high school principal, I think. And so Stephanie sits on this cabinet, and we asked her if she wouldn't mind coming and talking for a few minutes about what's going on at the high school and like that. So Stephanie, whatever it is, let us have it.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Navarez, and I am a junior at Basalt High School. And my name is Cheyenne Myers. I'm a senior at Basalt High School. Currently, the Basalt High School student leadership class is working on the 5th annual Longhorn Stampede. This is a community mud run, and it's been, it includes the student body and the community. Usually 80% of the student body participates, and it's usually to promote healthy lifestyle and involvement. As well as the Stampede, we're also working on implementing a climbing wall at the high school in our auxiliary gym. Plans and blueprints for that are supposed to be submitted by the end of this week, I believe. As well as that, we've completed a few murals recently at the high school, as well as getting some new furniture with the Student Leadership Council. As well as that, I know that the Basalt Band was invited to play at the Mardi Gras Festival at Snowmass, and is also been invited back to perform at closing day for the mountain, so.
That's a lot. Did you run into some funding that you got to do all these things, or how did this happen that you got climbing walls and other things? Do you know?
The Student Leadership Council has been fundraising pretty diligently since we began, I think, 9 years ago as an actual class and club. So we have about $10,000 in our account that we're working on to spend and just kind of not have it sit around so we can actually improve the school in bigger ways than minor ways.
Great. Does council have any questions for these representatives from the high school?
How many people are part of the leadership?
About 30
30.
students, and it all ranges from freshmen to seniors.
And are you guys elected or self-appointed?
You have to apply into the program by filling out an application. And we work very closely with the administration, so the principals and the vice principals. And along with that, we also work with the student council, which is the presidents and cabinet of each selected grade, freshman through senior. We're just a class that was anointed through recommendation and application.
Of all those projects you named, what's your favorite?
The Stampede's my favorite.
It sounds like fun.
It is.
Can old people
Come
play?
out for it. Anyone can. It's open to the community. We do one day that's more of a, what is that called? Like a,
Practice?
no, a field day for the student body. And then on the weekend, it's open to the community. And if students wish to run it again the next day, they can. But it's open to the community on the weekends. So if any of you want to come, feel free. It's a lot of fun, lot of dirt.
And when is it?
May 26th for the students and May 27th for the community.
Okay, so people just show up. They don't need to sign up or?
There will be online registration leading up to the upcoming event, and that will be $15 online registration, and then the day of is $20.
Could you tell us where people go, like what website to sign up?
It'll be posted on the bhs.rfsd.org page and on the Basalt High School Facebook page.
Right. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
You could have been doing something else.
And I know Stephanie from the mayor's cabinet, but Cheyenne was involved with the art base, and worked with the kind of the leadership program where you work one-on-one, so she got her own show over at the art base.
Wow.
And then she helped, more importantly for me, actually, I'm sorry, but she helped with the Sunday market with art projects during the Sunday
Excellent.
market.
So these are the people who do everything. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, our next item is the consent agenda, and there's several things on here. If there are no questions on any of those items, is there a motion?
I would like to make a request that one of the items be pulled from the consent agenda.
Can you give us a clue? Which one?
It has to do with the pet parade, okay?
Okay,
And it is, the details are, they want us to consider.
let's pull it off, okay, and then
Pull
we.
it off, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so,
good.
do we actually need a motion and a vote to pull something off consent?
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
No.
not really.
Okay, let's just pull it off.
Let's
Pull.
Okay, so could we get a motion to approve 4A, B, D, and E?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items 4A, 4B, 4D, and 4E.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Bernie, did you want to go ahead and talk about your pet parade?
Yes, there's a special activity event, a pet parade on May 30th at Midland Avenue between Cottonwood and Two Rivers Drives on Tuesday, the 30th. And the school district, in conjunction with Colorado Animal Rescue Care, is proposing to hold a pet parade where students will walk their pets down Midland Avenue. And I bring this up as a very welcome rebuttal to a recent developer of a would-be marijuana dispensary who found that he was a nightmare to work with the council and the conflicted views about marijuana on Main Street. In fact, in this one article in the Aspen Daily News dated January 3rd of this year, he said, quote, he would rather host a dog leashing, or he would not he would not hold a dog leashing contest in Basalt. And I would humbly ask CARE and the school district consider including a dog leashing event in their dog parade to show that Basalt is not such a terrible place to live, work, and do business, and that I would gladly bring my 2 mutts and have them participate in this dog leashing demonstration.
Thank you, Bernie. Are there any other comments regarding that?
You want to make a motion to approve it?
I would make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Bernie. Okay, the next item is 5A, which is council comments. And I will just very briefly say that we were having some chit-chat on our break about how great the Longhorns did, and we are going to recognize them at a future meeting, but it is much more timely to be able to say right now, they really, really kicked it. We went to a lot of the games. We had an exchange student living with us this year. Our next door neighbor plays on the team, and they were amazing and came that close to going farther when they went to state. So they're amazing bunch of guys.
And I must say, the mayor's alma mater won it all.
Yeah, Sterling, Colorado, where I graduated, won the state basketball championship.
Where's Sterling?
Stop it. Okay, so moved, right? Yes.
If anyone wants to coach major minors baseball, we need another coach. James is sharing some of his time to help, and it's fun, and you get to hang out with other cool coaches like James and myself, and it's only 2 months, Little League.
And there are people in the front row who usually are the hand raisers.
Been there, done that.
Okay. Other council comments? Jen?
I'd like to recognize the Town of Basalt Public Works crew. If you all remember that crazy wind weather event that was within the last 2 weeks, it blew down many a trees, and there were a couple of the men out at 2 a.m. with chainsaws in the wind, the blizzard, clearing trees from the road. And so I just want to give a big shout out and kudos to going above and beyond, and that's part of our community. So
Yay.
thank you, Public Works. And then as well, I mentioned the Basalt Community Garden in my before the meeting commercial, but garden plots are available. They're $40 for an 8x10 plus a $40 deposit, and includes water and sun. And we have flyers for it on the front desk, and you can outreach to Jerry or Gail Terwilliger, or Patty, Debbie, or Dylan, or email basaltcommunitygardens@gmail.com.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Yes, ma'am.
I see that Judy's not here right now, but Friday, where is Judy?
Oh.
No. Friday, lanes change on the underpass. If we could do a little information session right now about that.
Okay, that is actually posted on the Basalt Colorado community page, which is a chamber website. It's posted on the town website in gory detail. And the Basalt website is
Basalt.net.
just basalt.net, and it's pretty easy to find. And there is Judy, if you wanted to add anything at a microphone. Okay, all right. But it is happening on,
Isn't it Friday?
Thursday or Friday, depending on weather, and we have a mass email that will go to everyone.
okay, great. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thanks very much. Our next item is manager updates from Davis Ferrer.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, first one is just some clarification. You have the priority list that you put together, we worked on in the last meeting. And I have one point of clarification. When we were talking about the Riverfront Park, we were really focusing on the culvert project. And during that discussion, it came up, well, aren't we gonna get grass until August? And then can't we plant grass and trees that don't cost a whole bunch of money? And that conversation kind of went off into the ether a little bit. So, I'm looking for a little more clarification. I think it would be difficult to just put grass in there and trees and then come in and do a project and wipe that stuff out. So, if it helps at all, Susan and I have had conversations about the bigger project, and we are moving forward on pieces of that, but wanted to make sure that was okay with you guys and where that fits into the priority list of projects.
Can we at least get our part of the park done? Put the sprinklers in, plant some trees?
I would have to ask Susan to help me answer that question because I'm not sure what our
Can,
part.
can I just interrupt 1 second? And to Mark's point, I think we have been trying to say for about 5 months that we need, ever since we lost the question on the ballot, which is fine, but we've been trying to get this going for a very long time, and we can't design it, like wordsmith it and design it sitting here. It's not possible. So it would be really, really good. I know we, in the interim, adopted a procurement policy, which prohibits us from just saying, Mark, go do it, kind of thing. But we did have a design that we already were using had we gotten the vote passed. So couldn't we start with the design that we have of that portion and go from there? I mean, Davis, I believe, has got a lot of background in these kinds of public projects. So what I'm hoping is that sooner rather than later, so that we can kind of discontinue this running in place that we do every time we meet, bring us back something that is a recommendation, a staff recommendation, so we can roll out the bid process.
Susan, do you want to add something?
You know, I would just say that we work with Post, and we have a pretty good idea of, pretty good plan of using a integrated project design approach where you're kind of marrying your design and your planning piece together. Sorry. We spent quite a bit of time with Dan Richardson, kind of getting his advice about how to move forward. And, you know, what his recommendation is to use an integrated design planning process where you're kind of marrying your design elements and your costing and management piece of that together at the same time, so you don't do your normal go through the whole planning bidding process and then you're too expensive and you have to micromanage back. So I think we'll move ahead with kind of laying that out, and we'll talk to Davis about whether we need to bring that back to you. That's a shorter time frame. What you missed, Mark, is we had a prior meeting where we were kind of outlining that if we followed, you know, the normal procurement process, that we probably would not be able to see that, the grass and the trees by the end of this year. Dan Richardson was kind of holding out hope that if we moved really rapidly, quickly, that we could integrate those and kind of moving in parallel and that we might have a chance, but we really needed to kind of move forward.
Mark, then Jen.
I kind of disagree. We can get some grass out there, put sprinklers in our area, get some grass in. I don't really care about the trees that much, but at least it'll show the public and the community the delineation a lot better when it shows our area, grass, CDC partial, not. And that's hopefully gonna speed things up and get that part of the park figured out.
Jen.
I agree with Mark on the point of putting it out to bid for simple grass, excluding the children's whitewater, or the children's, it's not a children's whitewater park. We already have an adult one of those, but the water play area. So just simple grass, not crazy sod, thick, amazing lush stuff, just something green. And as well, I am familiar with IDP. It is utilized. It is what the RMI Rocky Mountain Institute utilized, and it is a very new process, especially to SGM and to the Roaring Fork Valley. I think it's a phenomenal process. Since it's such a new process, I don't feel that it is the best utilized method. I think going through our simple procurement policy to landscapers is the direct and least expensive way to go for something that is somewhat temporary, and as well the statement that we cannot keep waiting to see what happens on the other parcels because we don't know how long that's going to be. And the priority and what we have committed to from the 2015 bond is to have some finished spaces on the riverfront that we own. And so let's move forward in the quickest possible manner at the least expense, which was a very positive experience from the culvert project. Bernie?
Well, as I recall, this council virtually unanimously agreed we wanted a completely open, deliberate, and transparent process of financial management as well as garden management, let's call it. And that would include a sequence of bids, seeking bids, getting bid specs. Gary and Mark are much more familiar with that than I am, so that we could show the people this truly was the plan that we envisioned in that bond issue going back to 13. It's not just grass and trees. As much as immediate gratification would be a desirable thing, I understand that very much so. But I am concerned with process, because the result of doing the process right is confidence, both that you've got a good plan that can be executed in a timely manner, that everybody shares the same goals and the same timeline, and that financially this was a perfectly open and was the best bang for the buck the city could have gotten out of what it is a very complicated gardening process. I don't know as much as Mark and Gary. I feel very uncomfortable feeling let's just throw the grass out there and some trees. I assume you have to conform the land. You have to contour the land, unless you want to simply throw out grass and then be prepared to rip this all up when you put in a fully conforming park. I would just leave this as a very major concern on my part about following that procedure of throwing the grass out.
Can I just throw this out as a suggestion? It sounds like Susan Davis and the contractor who's been working on the culvert have had in-depth conversations about this, and they have also heard all of the comments here. And can we just ask them to go ahead and go forward and bring us back what you were suggesting, so that we have an idea of where we're going? Because I think the worst scenario I ever see on council meetings is us micromanaging the specific details of a project. So if you could just bring us something, and if you feel like there's strong thoughts on the part of Mark and or Jen or Gary or whoever, maybe drag them into the process a little bit as you go, so that we don't, because I don't have the strong, I want it to look like the promise that we made, something there. But I feel like we maybe have some expertise on this board that could help, but not in this setting. Is that okay?
So we'll bring something back at the next meeting.
Please.
Okay.
Basically, fine grading, put some seed down and some straw. If we gotta surface irrigate it with some sprinklers above grade, so
I
be
mean,
it.
it's sprinkled now with the hydrants.
I know, that's what's out there, but look at it.
I know. So, again, it wouldn't be bad to drag in some expertise from the board, just because we know that there's some thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Direction from the council and interest in acquiring a portion of the CDC property. I've had input from various councilors about what's the possibility of maybe acquiring some of that property. And that's kind of the extent of the input. And in order to do that, we would obviously have to have conversations with the owners of the property. If you were going to acquire a portion of it, there would have to be some type of subdivision action to do that, which would go through the land use process. And I am looking for some feedback and direction from the council on whether that's something the staff should pursue with the owners of the property or not.
In my opinion, we had the vote, and the citizens elected not to buy it. Now, if we can come up with ways to fund it that don't require any income tax increases, or property tax increases, I'd be okay with that.
And also, Davis and I have both talked to, and I'm sure Gary as well, that it is possible that we still have partners out there. So I think just to pursue, is this a possibility with the landowner? What does the money look like, the post money, the partnership money? Information that
Okay.
is, that we can bring back and talk about publicly is, I think, what most of us would like. Jen?
And I'd love to see the message to the landowner that it is of high importance and that there is a large percentage of citizens that are behind and support ensuring that that portion is park. And us, the town of Basalt, purchasing that is going to take much of the development, land use forward issues less forefront on the table, off of the shoulders of a prospective developer, and it clears the water, it makes it clearer, it's less extraction from a possible developer.
Okay.
Okay. Anything more on that, Bernie?
I agree with Mark. I have no objection, as long as there's no new necessarily any new tax money at all to be utilized toward this. I have no objection to talking possibilities. I do have one concern. Is that going to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in the negotiations between the named contractual owner, that is Lowe's Enterprises, to be named, and the current owner of the CDC? Are we messing up anything by starting these conversations? That's my only concern. I want that to be going on a parallel course, unimpeded. I have no objection to us doing this otherwise.
That's probably part of the question.
Yeah, I think that if there's a problem there, I'm sure they will articulate that to us right away. But, yes, we will talk about that.
All right. Are we good? Okay, thanks, Davis.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Our next item is citizen comments for items that are not on the agenda. So we have been asking that people take up to 3 minutes and talk about issues that are not already posted on our agenda to be spoken about later. So Jenna, if you'd like to come up to the microphone and say who you are, even though we know.
Ma'am, am I timing?
You are. That was the deal, right?
I didn't rehearse this, so I'll try to keep it under 3 minutes.
You don't have to ask on every person.
Okay.
Before you start timing, may I say one thing?
Yes, yes.
I had really made this effort to have, when a citizen comes up, to sit with us, not facing us, and I don't know what
Okay.
happened, but you could sit right there, if you don't mind.
Now you need your mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna Moe, the Executive Director of the Art Base, and I want to start by saying thank you. We love our building and being able to program in downtown Basalt. The kids can walk from school. We meet them at their classroom and walk them to the campus, which greatly increases participation in our super affordable after-school programs. And then it's right on the bus stop for summer programming, which makes it really convenient, not just for kids, but adults also who take public transportation. So thank you for making it possible for us to be there the last 4 years of our lease. It's really a big benefit to the community. We believe that our Second Friday programs, it's not just that we believe, it's a fact. They put hundreds of people out into the downtown core who then go out and eat at restaurants and go drink at bars and buy art and contribute to the sales tax revenue. We, in the summer, often program 7 days a week. Throughout the rest of the year, it's always at least 5 days a week. We participate in every community event in downtown Basalt, and several partnership collaboration programs with other nonprofits and businesses in the area. So thank you for making it possible for us to be there.
I was here for the work session and just wanted to clarify that the late payment for the building maintenance fund, there was no record of being invoiced in the past for that, so we received an invoice for 2014, 2015, and 2016 all at once. I had asked Davis and Judy for a payment plan, but we received an unexpected large anonymous contribution and emailed Davis today that we plan to pay that in full. Going forward, it'd be really helpful to know when we'll be billed for 2017 so we can budget and plan accordingly. Also was here for the work session for discussions about the need for recreation and obviously identified their importance to the community and want to be helpful in that search, however we can be, and collaboration art programming sounds exciting. Okay. And just to clarify, for us, it's really important that we maintain this fantastic momentum we have with our supporters and in the community with our name change and kind of re-energized mission. It's crucial to show the town's support of what we do and how we contribute to the vibrancy of Basalt. So in speaking of potentially losing our space, that can be a scary thing to supporters, and I appreciate a lot those of you who stand up for the arts and an arts economy. It's a pleasure to work with TACA and with BPAC on bringing those entities together and serving the town, and I look forward to a group work session where we can further discuss how those entities work together. And if that is indeed at the next council meeting, please let us know as soon as possible so we can schedule accordingly. We are diligently working on a plan to privately fundraise for a new building, and I think this will help solve a lot of problems for space downtown. So I hope part of that conversation can be exploring the opportunity for land in the downtown core that the town may have an option on. So
Thank you,
thank
Jenna.
you for all you do to support the art base.
Thank you
Thanks.
for everything you do, honestly. Okay, other citizen comments for items that are not on the agenda? Yes,
Got it?
we need you on the mic.
I think it's on the agenda, but I'm wondering if I can comment now because I have a little one who might also want to comment, who I need to get home. Would that be okay?
Okay.
Sure.
And it's about the Safe Harbor Community Resolution.
Okay.
Will you go right there, if you don't mind?
I will, but I'm just going to grab Oliver because I think he wants to comment as well.
Huh?
Thanks, you guys.
You guys can both sit up at the table, so you don't.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want me there, you want me here?
Well, you guys are
You
gonna be
could
together.
probably want to sit together, would be my guess.
Sounds perfect.
Okay. And
Great.
Julie, we do limit to 3 minutes, so
Great. Do we share 3 minutes or do we each
You
get
get
3 minutes?
6.
you get 6.
Okay, we'll try to keep it 3 for both of us. Let's see what we can do. So, Oliver and I wanted to voice our support for the Safe Harbor Community Resolution, and I have 3 reasons. We'll see how many Oliver has. Mine is 1, it's the right thing to do. 2, when large segments of our community feel unsafe, it takes a toll on our community as a whole. And 3, with so much hateful rhetoric on the national front, I think a little local kindness can go a long way. Do you want to say it yourself, honey? Okay, I'm going to amplify. Okay. I want all of my friends to feel safe. That's it? Okay, that's it. Oliver wants all of his friends to feel safe.
I like it.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for letting us speak early, I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other citizen comments for items not on the agenda?
This is where we had you, Tim.
Oh, yeah, you actually have your own unidentified spot here, yes. This is an update from Willits Town Center on Block 7 North, 50 affordable housing units.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is Jerome Simasek. He's principal with the Romero Group Property Management Firm, locally based. And I'm Tim Belinsky. I'm with the Development Group for Willits Town Center. A quick update, and James and Susan may chime in as well. The program at, Block 7 North, which consists of 50 apartments, We are moving along with construction. We don't yet have safe occupancy established yet. It's a complicated two-phased project, and we're working through that on a day-by-day basis. As soon as we have clearance there, then we'll be able to push forward with the information packages that have been worked on with the planning staff, with Jerome's team at Romero Group, and assembled so that those who are interested in renting a unit will have a clear process for that is fairly handled and transparent as much as we can possibly make it be that. There does appear, as we've reported in the past, pretty strong demand and high level of interest for the units. So we want to really make sure we come out of the block in as clear a manner as we can so that people understand how the program's going to work and feel like they've had a fair shot at it. It was in the Basalt newsletter as well. Thanks for picking that up. It effectively was a repeat of Scott's article, which ran a couple weeks ago in the Aspen Times, which was pretty helpful. And that's where we stand. It's already a point where time is very urgent for us. We're anxious to see occupancy, and we had a couple, Bernie and Jackie were able to get out and tour the building. And I'd encourage anybody that has any interest on a piecemeal basis or what have you to come on out and we'll walk around. So that's where we stand. Anything from anybody else? Susan?
Maybe you should just explain about closing the list.
About what?
Closing the list.
That's, yeah, great cue. Because we'll be working our way through those inquiries, the people who have expressed interest, and we'll also be advertising so people know publicly that there is an opportunity to put their name on the list. We'll work that through this week, and into next week we'll be closing down that list and then working with those people in terms of relaying the application information to them and inviting them to tour the building and working toward a match in terms of their qualifications and our ability to assign a unit. So that's underway and will be talked about in the context of closing down, but it's really just moving that group into the action area, and then we'll continue to receive names of interest thereafter and have a second and third and whatever round we need to continue to work our way through those inquiries.
Okay.
And I would just add, having toured the units with Jackie, that they are very pleasant, substantial units that any family would feel very comfortable to call home here in Basalt.
Good job.
One question is, on that list, is it geared towards, Basalt residents or Mid-Valley residents and stuff like that? How does that list get formulated?
Yeah, it's all in accordance with the community housing guidelines for the
Okay.
town already. So, really, we're just the implementation team to oversee what's in there. But there is a set of priorities, and it is weighted toward those who are employed in the town.
Thanks, guys, for coming in.
You bet.
The units are killer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, our next item is a request from the fire district to discount building permit fees. Is there a staff?
James is taking
Okay.
this one.
Okay. It just says Scott. I was going to say, that's not fair, that he has to be the employee of the town as well.
Hi, Chief.
I'm here.
How are ya?
How are you?
We're going to let James intro you.
Yeah, I'll just briefly intro you, that's fine. Back in 2009, the Basalt Fire Protection District received approval to expand Basalt Fire Station 41, which is over on School Street here. They added some affordable housing units that were for the district, and they also received an approval to expand the bays as well as put in staff quarters for those on call at the time. The affordable housing units were built shortly after they received approval. And then Phase 2, which is improving the staff quarters and the bays, is still out there. The fire district is now ready to start looking at those improvements, and so they've requested a waiver from the building permit fees, and I'll let Scott go into more detail in terms of the request.
Very similar to what we did in 2009. We're asking for any help and assistance that we can. The reason that the project stalled, of course, was the economy. Our tax dollars went way down. We lost close to 50%. So we couldn't afford to build the two things. Now that the growth is continuing in Basalt, we feel that that's a very needed project to add 4 staff quarters. And those are going to be on-call people that are actually going to be at the fire station. We still have the apartments and the resident firefighters staying there, but we want to be able to add staff in the future. And put our volunteers in there. There's several of our volunteers that don't even live in our community, but come here and volunteer, and it's a great place for them to go. That being said, we didn't do our proposed project in Basalt, or in Elgibel, because we couldn't afford to do it. So we've put all the money into the Basalt station to be able to afford to do it. The cost of construction, unfortunately, was higher than what we had it bid in earlier and what we got the bond for, so we have a shortage of money. So what we're asking is any help. I think, what I understand, it's close to $18,000 in building permit fees. So we're asking for a portion or whatever help we can get from the town.
Just to clarify, the council's options are identified on the first page of the staff memo. If the council is interested in a building permit fee reimbursement or waiver, you could direct staff to bring back a resolution at the next meeting to.
Me? Being the building official in Snowmass, I've always waived the fees for the fire department up there, all of the building and the plan review. On this one, I would suggest that you guys would still have to pay the water fee. I think we could probably waive the energy fee. I would like to waive the plan review fee. And I would ultimately like to waive the building permit fee as well, but I'm willing to go, half of that or something. Because based on the scope of work, I anticipate Mr. Wilson, our inspector, building official, he's probably going to spend maybe 2 days doing the plan review. That's staff time. Building permit fees more arbitrary. You can't really put a number on that as far as inspections and stuff, but that would be my suggestion, to waive the plan review fee completely and go maybe half on the building permit fee.
And the energy fee?
Other council questions or comments? Gary?
I'm good with that.
That was easy. Anybody
So
else?
essentially, we'd be waiving about $18,000.
Okay, I just have questions, and Susan would probably be the only one who could maybe remember this, but in the prior regime, if you will, we had a more hardline view of nonprofits and government and everything on fees. Maybe Susan can just sort of remind me, just because I want to know, how are we being consistent or inconsistent?
Our rationale in the backup for doing this was kind of that we lived in that building rent-free for quite some time, and so that was our rationale if the council wanted to waive the fees, because it's just a straight-up development. We don't have a mechanism unless you're affordable housing, but in this case, we did it before, so if you wanted to hang your hat on something, that's what we thought, is that you're kind of giving credit for the fact that you lived in that building rent-free. The police department was housed there for several years.
So it's a trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bernie?
Well, I'm gonna bring up what Auden did, which is we have a policy of a balanced budget, and this is not in that at this time, and it's not in our budget planning process for 18. It certainly is a worthwhile, desirable, function in addition to our community, but we've heard many of those come before us. I can see meeting Mark some way and maybe give them 100% of the building permit fee, but keeping what is our normal plan review fee. So it would be waiving 16,000, a little bit less than half of that total fee.
It's about the same either way, and it all goes in the same pot.
And it's easier. Yeah, Jen?
I do have a question about the water fee. Is this a basalt fee, or is this, I have the understanding that the basalt, the sanitation is separate from the water.
And the water is
And the
us,
water
and
is
East
us.
Basalt.
Okay,
Yeah, this is
and
East Basalt.
what is there a sanitation fee, and what is basalt sanitation?
We upgraded sanitation when we did the housing units because we had to go to a larger line.
Sure.
And so there was an additional tap that we had to do into the street, so that's all done
Okay,
in the first phase to do phase 2 and 3.
great.
And on the water side, we are adding toilets and showers and things like that, so we understand that there's going to be added fees for those,
Usage
Those
fees,
units.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Plus,
Yes.
if I may say to Bernie's point, Judy, did you have these monies anticipated in the budget? No, the
As
permit
income.
and plan check fee as revenue. Yeah, so it's a crystal ball thing, we may end up way over on what Jim has allotted for 2017. I doubt that we're gonna end up under. I know he plans conservatively as I do, so I really don't think it's gonna affect us financially at all.
I guess the other thing that would have been good, and it's beside the point now, but if we did get free rent, it would have been nice to ballpark what that was, how many months, at X amount of dollars, just because I'm just in the back of my mind, knowing how many people we've told, no, we're not waiving any fees, to be able to say it was about this much money. But I agree with the remainder of, or the majority or whatever of this council, that, I know it's kind of just throwing it out in the air, but the building permit fees waived seem okay. Yeah, Auden, and then Katie.
Yeah, I appreciate the council's interest in being consistent. For me, this is an exception in that it's not just health and safety, but it's an incredible asset right in the center of town that we want to support. Scott, you provide paramedic level service, don't you? 24/7? A lot of communities don't have that. That's amazing. So I'm willing to waive the fee per Mark's suggestion.
Katie?
Sure, I kind of have a similar comment to Auden. This is a life and safety situation where I want to make sure that our fire department and our paramedics can actually deal with emergencies in this town immediately. And then also, it's really just a reallocation of tax dollars, basically, from one pot to another. We, as taxpayers, are paying this either to you and then transferring it onto the town for us to figure out how we're going to use it. So I'm completely fine making an exception and waiving a portion of these fees.
So I'll make a motion to have staff bring back a resolution reducing the fees as discussed.
Second.
Further discussion? My only discussion is it Mark's suggestion or Bernie's, because they were close but not exactly the same.
He made his motion for his suggestion.
It's a joint effort.
Yeah, I accept that motion.
Okay.
All right,
Second it.
further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you for the support.
scot-free, so to speak.
Not completely.
Not completely
Hit it,
free.
Scott.
Thank you, Chief Thompson. Scott hat.
Thanks, Scott.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you very much.
All right, keep up the good work.
You guys get ready for mud and flood.
Yes,
So just since I'm here, the Basalt Emergency Committee meeting, we've brought the full-scale exercise of Eagle County to Basalt. May 7th, I believe, it's on a Sunday. So I would really like to see some town involvement with that, like town council, so we can get used to
Jen will
handoffs.
probably get us there, right? Okay.
So,
Jen's in charge.
just so you guys, fair warning.
Got it.
Oh, it's
Scott.
nice to have
gonna
the
be a
big
big thing.
man with,
Yeah, Jen coming around.
Yeah, me
And
coming.
Scott,
What's the date?
May
I
7th.
think it's May 7th is a Sunday.
And just piece of information, you all have
perfect
been,
birthday thing ever.
Hey, just a second.
you had an incident happen in town, 2 of them, that relate to this. So this training and experience is really valuable.
Okey doke.
Thanks, Scott.
You'll see somebody there.
More than one.
May 7th.
Okay. Okay, our next item is, we need to convene as the liquor authority. Is there a motion?
I move the town council convene as the local liquor authority.
Liquor.
Second.
Liqueur? Do you need some?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Pam, did you want to kick this off, or?
Sure. So tonight we are, I'm going to invite Bill Johnson up. We can sit here or there. And Bill is the applicant with Elk Mountain Ventures LLC. He's the owner, applying for a brew pub license for the Capitol Creek Brewery to be at 371 Market Street in Willits Town Center. This is the first brew pub, or the first brewery license that we've had in town, so it's kind of exciting. This will be a public hearing this evening, so quickly I'll run through the application, staff findings. Restrictions on the license are listed in the memo. Does anybody want me to go through those quickly, or? Okay.
We read it.
The findings are also listed there. These are the findings based on staff investigation and are in accordance with the CRS 1247-313 that applies to state liquor licenses. So there are no prior licenses have been denied at this location. The applicant has possession of the property. There are no municipal zoning laws prohibiting the sale of alcohol at this location. The building is not located within 500 feet of any public or parochial school or campus of any college, university, or seminary. The application is complete. Fingerprints and individual history records have been submitted to the state of Colorado and have been returned with no negative findings. The state of Colorado has run a concurrent review of this license, and they are prepared to issue their license as soon as we issue our license. Staff would caution that any motion include all the contingencies listed in the memo. There are several things of concern because we are so far along in the liquor license process, but we're not that far along in the building process. We're getting there. So we are close. And I think that's all I had to say at this point. And this is Bill Johnson.
Yes, welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Good to be here.
And at this point, you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your business, your vision for your business, and anything else you'd want to add?
Sure, absolutely. And if anyone has any specific questions about the business, feel free.
Mike, please.
Sure. So we started this process probably about 1.5 years ago, was when I first sat down and spoke with Tim, Mr. Belinsky. And I've owned a restaurant up in Aspen, the Highlands Ale House, for a while. It was a great local environment. And I don't own a bunch of restaurants. This is my only project. And so I sold out of the ale house. I live in Basalt. I actually live across the street in Elgibel. So technically I live in Carbondale. But it made a lot of sense to me. I mean, I've been wanting to open a restaurant in Willits. There's just an incredible opportunity in that part of Basalt. And the concept, it's a brew pub, so we're going to do on-premise brewing. We'd like to have a good selection of beer that we make in-house. We're only going to have our beer on tap, and we're not going to distribute. At least we don't have plans to. We don't really have the space or the capacity to do that. So it's really just brewing beer that we're going to serve, to local residents on premise. We're also going to pair it with a full bar, so we'll have wine and cocktails, and it'll be a regular restaurant. You know, we open around 11 a.m. I think we like to keep the kitchen open till at least 10 o'clock, and see if there is any interest in later night business in Willits. And just from my own personal experiences, there doesn't seem to be that much interest in late night business at Willits, but we'll kind of see what customers want. Family friendly is an important part of the concept. Once again, living across the street and frequenting the restaurants, you know, the majority of customers are locals, and the majority of those locals are families. And so kind of doing everything we can to make sure that people are very comfortable bringing kids and really anyone in the valley or anyone in the Basalt area, you know, I think is going to kind of enjoy the concept and the menu. And the menu is going to bring something new, that adding a little bit of diversity, I guess, to what's going on at Willits, and with a pretty broad appeal. So I think it'll be hopefully it's a big hit with all the local residents. So.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson.
Sure.
Okay, this is a public hearing requirement, so at this point in time, I'll open the public hearing at 7 straight up. Is there anyone in the public who has any comments regarding this liquor license application? Hearing none.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that a bunch of people, 67 people to be exact, did sign the petition in favor of having
Great.
this at the suggested premise, so.
Super, thanks Pam for pointing that out. But we're still gonna close the public hearing at 7:01.
And Mayor, I just want to make one more comment.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to draw your attention that we had a amended memo from the planning department, and it was really just to kind of identify that the patio area may change. The fire department had made a comment that was making the patio area move, and so we just want to have the flexibility to approve the patio plan in the future rather than having a specific date reference. So that's just a heads up.
Yeah, it's the red, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, so we closed the public hearing. It's comments, questions from this board?
I make a motion the town council approve Yelp Mountain Ventures new brew pub license for Catholic Brewer to be located at 371 Market Street per staff recommendations and conditions. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You
We
just
had
voting ahead
discussion.
of time. Opposed? Great. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
When will we see you again? I've heard this a million times, but I forgot.
When will you see me again?
Yeah.
I
I don't mean you personally.
When will you open?
When are you gonna open?
Yeah.
I'm hoping to, it should be great if we had the doors open by the middle of April.
That'd be
I
awesome.
think we're rounding a corner, and we should be having some of our major final inspections towards the end of this month, and potentially getting a CO around, close to April 1st, and
Okay.
then I'll have some soft opening parties, some community events, and then we'll be opening for regular business in perpetuity, hopefully by mid-April.
By tax day.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, I move that the town council adjourn the local liquor authority and reconvene the council.
That's a good idea.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Let's see, the next item is continued public hearing and second reading of ordinance 2, an ordinance of the town approving a PUD amendment to the south side PUD and a site plan review approval to permit a large daycare and associated playground on lot 1 of the PUD, 400 Alexander Lane, Basalt, James. Welcome back. Thanks. Hi.
Thank you. This is a continued public hearing and a second reading of the ordinance that would approve of a minor PUD amendment, as well as a site plan review to allow for the large daycare at 400 Alexander Lane. As we discussed at the last meeting, the applicant is proposing to expand the existing NJS Hobby Farm, which is located at 258 Alexander, into the adjacent property at 400 Alexander. And they're also proposing to construct a playground area for the preschool. As discussed at the last meeting, staff reviewed the application as well as the P&Z. The P&Z and staff felt that the project was compatible with the neighborhood. We felt it met a significant need. We did hear that another daycare in the Mid-Valley has closed. And ultimately, staff believes that the conditions mitigate the impacts. The HOA has recommended approval and provided a letter that was in the last packet. So staff would suggest this evening that you take any additional applicant comments, take public comments because it is a continued public hearing, and provide council discussion. Ultimately, staff and the P&Z recommend approval of the ordinance. We've got the applicant group here this evening. We've got Dana Dalabetta, we got Ms. Mayer, and Lucas Beck.
Okey-doke. Did the applicant have any further comments?
We don't have anything in detail. We just want to thank you for your support at the last public hearing. We submitted to the BOCC, and we are scheduled to have a hearing down there on April 12th. The day after we met with you guys at council last time, we also met with the HOA, reviewed the plan again, didn't get any different feedback than what they originally provided in the letter, so they seem to be on board as well. So the only thing we'd like to ask of town council is your support for the BOCC application. A specific letter of support to the BOCC we think would be very helpful in addition to staff's support of the application as well. We know that their main concerns when they reviewed this back in 2012, 13, were Town of Basalt comments. So it'd just be very helpful to have your clear support.
Okay, great. All right. If there's no further staff or applicant comments, I'll open the public hearing at 7:06. Is there anyone in the public who has any comments regarding this application for a large daycare on the south side? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Go to council.
I'll make a motion to approve on second reading ordinance number 2, series of 2017, approving a PUD amendment to the south side for PUD and a site plan review approval to permit a large daycare and associated playground on lot 1 of the PUD, and to send a letter to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners stating that we support this and we hope that they would support this.
Good job on that really hard motion. All right, is there further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ah, so easy. I hope they're not paying any of you for this, because that was too easy.
So we can follow up with James on the letters?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Super.
Thank you very much. Nice work.
Okay, our
Up, Sarah.
next item is, do we have somebody to do something? Okay, are we on this one?
Yep.
Okay. Resolution 6 of 2017, a resolution of the town adopting the Basalt Climate Action Plan, which includes the Basalt Addendum to the Eagle County Climate Action Plan, and the document titled Climate Action Plan for the Eagle County Community. Susan Philp?
Okay, this is gonna be just a little bit of a tag team with myself and with Sarah Gruen from CORE, and both of us have been involved with the Green Team in the adoption of this plan. Most recently, 2 weeks ago, we presented the plan to the town council, and a couple weeks before that, we discussed the climate action plan with Eagle County commissioners, and they were real interested in having the town of Basalt support this. You know, the main thing that we're doing here is stepping up to the plate with Eagle County in terms of the greenhouse gas reductions. This plan adopts a reduction of 25% in greenhouse gas emissions by 2025 and 80% by 2050. I think one of the big things that came out of the Green Team discussions, and Councilor Schindler probably wants to add to this, is that the Basalt portion of this plan should just be very action-oriented and very succinct instead of kind of being kind of tied to a lot of data. So that's what we have here. At the last meeting, there were some comments made by individual councilors. We went back and reviewed the plan and amended it where we thought it would, the comments were kind of leading us to make an improved plan. One of those was just the idea of accountability and having the annual report that's documenting how much greenhouse gas emissions progress that reduction the emissions that we made in the past year. You know, an important component of this plan is that we are saying that every year we'll consider allocating $100,000 a year. That doesn't, of course, mandate that we do, but that we will consider doing that. You know, another comment was that we should maybe have a stronger, a statement about photovoltaic fields and having some language that specifically addresses that. And looking back at the language was broad and didn't just preclude, that was more inclusive, so we left the language as it is, fully intending that that's part of the whole program. So, Sarah, do you want to add to what I said?
All right.
Auden?
Philip, are you here on this one?
Oh, I didn't see you sneak in, sorry, 'cause
Okay, thanks for coming.
You have anything to add?
No.
Mike, please.
You haven't gotten
We have a
yelled at.
mic coach back there.
Yeah, you haven't got yelled at.
I'll just reiterate that it's all about actionable items and things that we can actually achieve and do in this community to set an example and make a difference.
Great. Great work. You too, Auden. Thank you. So this is not a public hearing or anything, so is there?
Make a motion that town council approve resolution number 6, series of 2017.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent job. Thank you so much for coming.
Yep, good job.
Okay, are we really? We're like
Don't curse us.
1 minute late only. Okay, the next item is Resolution 9, Series of 2017, resolution of the town declaring and affirming Basalt, Colorado's commitment as a safe harbor to build a diverse, inclusive, and just community, ensuring equal protection and services for all residents. And my name is on here as the staff person. And so I just want to say that this initiated in, once again, the informal mayor's cabinet. And I think Julie said it in such very few words, but basically there are a lot of people in our community. Uh-oh. Am I gonna cry?
You got some tears.
Okay.
That's okay.
There are-
Getting misty. It's
There
okay.
are many people in our community, and they are our community, who are afraid and worried that they will be either deported or separated from their families, and this does happen and is happening. And we really, you know, people have asked me, what is the purpose of this? You know, is there gonna be some kind of a hammer or carrot or something? And really, the purpose of this is, as Julie said, it is an act of kindness to balance out acts of threatening feelings that these folks have. And I just want to say that I think I'm speaking for all of us when I say immigrants, whether documented or undocumented, just give me a minute. Try some water. They are our friends, and they are our kids' friends, and they are our employers and our employees. Mostly they're our friends. And what you do when your friend is threatened is you stand beside them, and that's what this is about. So, on the technical side, I will say that we had an original document that had a little harder language, and we ran it by our attorney and the police chief, and it didn't fly. So we came back and made some language changes, and basically I spoke personally with the chief about, you know, because I wanted to feel like I was telling the truth, and he basically reaffirmed that Basalt as a community treats everyone the same. I also want to have a special thanks to Sam Bernal, who is in the audience. He's my friend and is the manager of, pronounce it for me. Yeah, Tricolor Radio. And he, I think, was telling people on the radio that we were doing this. And so, basically, that's all I have to say. But if there's anybody in the public that wants to say something, I would like to hear that.
I want to thank for.
Sam, could you just come up to the microphone, please?
I want to thank you and the town for making this resolution that I know it will be very important for our community because, as you mentioned, they are afraid. They are always asking the station what is the position of the authority. So these kind of messages are very important for them because it brings some peace to their homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, and also I asked Sam at the very last second, this is how very Anglo I am, if he could help us translate this document into Spanish, and he did that on like 1 hour's notice. And so we have that available as well, and so that's all I have, and thank you again, Sam.
Thank you.
For your help and support. Anybody have any comments or motion or?
Mayor, I move that town council approve resolution number 9, series of 2017.
Okay, I really appreciate this council's support in this because we are not on the receiving end of this stick and have no idea what it must feel like, but if this does any good at all, I am very proud of us. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Abstain.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so, was that it?
That's it, except for the
We have an executive
Update.
search update.
We have an update.
Oh, right,
We're
exactly.
gonna have Phil by phone
Do you
here.
have the phone number, Pam?
Exactly on time. Press it.
Madam Mayor, I think that the resolution is awesome. I was thinking maybe we should have called it Safe Eddie, but
I know,
Safe
I know, you
Harbor
wanted a
works
river reference.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so.
If you guys have questions for Phil, let's kind of have them ready.
Just tell him to hurry up.
Well, I think I just want to hear from him
Yes.
exactly where the steps are and the process going forward with some dates. That's key for me.
And Phil and I had a conversation this afternoon as well, so hopefully he'll
Okay.
touch on it.
Hey, Doug, Susan Ham, I'm just gonna do kind of a sound check before. Is this good or low or higher?
Can you say it like a, okay, sounds good here too.
Thank you.
Okay, Phil, thanks for coming to our meeting electronically. We appreciate it. And we do have, I think everybody's got your little memo and has read it. And unless do you want to say a few introductory words that are outside the scope of that memo?
Sure, pretty much. I just kind of wanted to remind everyone, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here. It kind of all started with the CCCMA meeting in late January. We started putting the word out at that time, and you had some ambassadors working on behalf of the town of Basalt as well. You know, Clint Kinney over with Snowmass Village and John Peacock down at the county were talking with people about it as well. I think they're interested in bringing someone strong up into the Roaring Fork Valley for their benefit as well. I'm very pleased with the outcome of the search. We went from 36 applicants on Friday to 58 applicants today. That's the total list. I'm very pleased with the quality. Kind of my prediction did occur. The more qualified candidates waited until the last minute, literally yesterday, to apply. But I'm very excited about who has applied and moving forward in our screening process. I get my first look at the resumes tomorrow. And so I've made outreach calls to the citizen committee. I've spoken with Rick Stevens and Pat Hinch. I have arrangements to talk with Chris Lane and Aaron Carlman, and left a message for Matt and Kathy, and hope that they'll get back to me tomorrow. So good timing on that. And I mean, everything's just pointed in the right direction. You know, I can segue over to where we go from here. Davis and I had a good conversation earlier today when once we get past the recommendation of a candidates meeting, and that's pretty basic, you know, you would receive a complete list of all applicants in advance of that meeting, and I'll bring everyone's resumes to that meeting. And then for the candidates that I'll be recommending, these will be identified on that master list. You will receive their cover letter, their resume, and their response to the supplemental questionnaire. All of that will come to you in advance of the recommendation of candidates meeting scheduled for April 4th. And then when we move through that, we'll come down into looking ahead to the final interview process for the semifinalists and the final interview process. And this is what Davis and I spoke about earlier today. Obviously, I think it's appropriate that the citizen panel participate in the narrowing of the larger pool of candidates, anywhere from 6, 7, or 8 down to the top 2 or 3. And that narrowing process would occur on April 21st, so we've identified in the schedule, and that would be considered the semifinalist interview process. I think also, if you have decided and if you deem it appropriate, it's a good time to involve staff in the process as well. Let them have input into, the narrowing down of the candidates to the top 2 or 3. For both the citizen panel and staff, they're encouraged, and I do this continuously through the process, which I will be there to facilitate both on the 21st and 28th, is that they have input into the process, but they are not making the selection. So they get to help narrow it down, who are the candidates that should move forward, who are the candidates that should stay behind. Not interested in their top choice. I don't want to know who their 1, 2, and 3 are. If it can set up an uncomfortable dynamic if moving forward in the process, they've all come out and said, by far you should pick candidate A, there's no choice other than that. And for some reason, good reason you picked candidate B, there's an issue before the candidate even arrives in the community or into the organization. So again, citizen input, staff input, input only, narrowing it down to a final group that would come back on the 28th or possibly the night before. Here, these candidates would be considered finalists. And per Colorado open meeting law, their information is subject to disclosure, and that would occur shortly after our meeting on the 21st. I encourage you to put a press release out to the press. Don't wait for them to call. And then you could have a mixer, if you will. We've talked about this, Mayor Listed, in that you can invite the community to a Chamber of Commerce type mixer. You even mentioned maybe in one of the restaurants in town. Have the candidates there, all, the top 2 or 3, have them prepared to kind of give a brief elevator speech in the middle of the session. Have people interact with the candidates directly, and then present them the opportunity to fill out an anonymous or not comment card that they would complete and drop in a box before they leave. We correlate those responses, have that available for you on Friday morning, the 28th, where you would actually have your second round of interviews with the top 2 or 3 candidates. The idea being these interviews are more relaxed, a little bit more informal. You're really trying to get a feel for the fit of the candidate and how well they would work with you, Mayor, and the rest of the town council. That's kind of a quick rundown of the search process, the search schedule. I'm open to questions. Once you make a selection, then we do more than just the preliminary backgrounding of a credit and criminal check, but we go through into the education verification, the work history, Social Security, driver's record, that sort of thing. And move into, hopefully, negotiations and place a candidate that fits the organization's needs. I'm open to questions. I'm sorry that was so brief.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I might just add that part of Phil and my conversation was sort of sample interview questions that it's always good to have food for thought. You can add your own, but at least starting with sort of tried and true kinds of questions, because you really want to find out about the best candidate, what makes them tick, what's the chemistry. I think that's an important part of this whole process. Do they fit this environment? Because sometimes you can check off all the boxes, but maybe the chemistry's not there, so.
Absolutely. No, Davis, you're absolutely right. And, provide suggested interview questions not only for you, Mayor, and the council, but for the staff and also for the citizen panel. The idea being that these questions would have a different perspective. Staff is interested in how this person is going to manage them, more so than a citizen would be asking how they would manage them. And then, other things that we provide are evaluation and ranking sheets for the final interview process. we assist in any way that we can to make that process go well. Again, I'll be there to facilitate it, move candidates around, interact with the citizens on the night before. It's a mixture. Obviously, Mayor, I see you playing a lead in that as well. But that's kind of how it all rolls out.
Yeah, Jen. Hi, this is Counselor Riffle. Can you provide us with some of those sample questions for the staff, community, and council ahead of time? Some of your favorites?
Yes.
That'd be great.
You bet. I can probably have them to you by the end of this week. I have some flexibility in my schedule for the next couple of days, so yes.
And also, Phil, a couple of people have said to me, well, first let me go back. So you did interviews with each of us on council separately, asking basically what are we looking for? So you got individual comments on that. When are we gonna come together? Because, you know, we basically speak as one voice, majority rules and all that. How do we get that together so you're not working with 7 individual directions?
Well, the position profile, when you look at the ideal candidate section, when I was in the review stage, that's where I wanted to make sure we had consensus as to, you know, the characteristics, the competencies that we'd be looking for in the town manager. Your comments, as many as I could, were incorporated into that document. And, you know, I review those before I start my screening process and keep those in the back of my mind. But the true consensus is what has been identified in the position profile.
The other suggestion or issue that Davis and I talked about a little bit was that, and you were talking fast and you're on the phone, but on the citizen committee and also the staff input, I think that from what I'm hearing is they were wanting to participate at a similar level in as much as they would like to say, what would we like to see in a manager? Versus on the end side, which I'm not totally clear what you were saying, but I think they wanted to be having input on the front, not necessarily about the personalities and narrowing those down, but more the characteristics that both the department heads would like to see and also what the citizen committee would like to see.
Okay. Well, you know, I've spoken with Pam, have left a message for Judy Tippett twice, and left a message for Boyd, and haven't heard back. I spoke with your chief of police and also Susan Phil, gathering information early on in the process. So I've reached out to the others. If you want to encourage them to give me a call, I'd be more than happy to talk to them, or I can call them back again.
Okay, that's all I have. Anybody?
Madam Mayor, if I might, just to reiterate that. So the citizen group and staff involvement would be to narrow the field. The final decision is the council's.
Right.
And that's a really important point to make. And Phil and I also talked about when you do the meet and greet thing, that's more for the community to get a flavor of the finalist candidates, but there's always a delicate line to make sure it's not a political process, because a manager in a community is an apolitical position. And that's really important, that you don't have your constituents, you are working for the council and you direct the staff. So
Right.
that's important to keep in mind.
Yep. Yes, Bernie.
Well, my question would be, when you're limiting the pool, that is a very important selection in itself. And I would hate to think that there is a candidate out there that some individual council member would like to see moved up to the more limited pool for selection, who's been bounced out by the citizen or staff committee. What is the mechanics, Phil, to make sure that does not happen?
Again, the staff panel and the citizen panel will provide input. You'll be there if you'd like. We can orchestrate it such that you're there to listen to the feedback, or they can provide that feedback to me, and then I will forward that to you. Again, like I say, the mayor and the council, you as an interview panel, you have authority to decide in any direction that you'd like to go. Staff and the community could recommend A, B, and C, and if you want to take a look at D, E, and F, that is your call.
Well, that is my,
Your
yeah,
decision.
that is my very strong conviction.
Rarely do I have such a diverse read on a pool of candidates. There might be one outlier out of a group, but generally speaking, the staff, the community, and you folks will, like I said, will come down to the same group. It's rare when you don't. Occasionally, there might be someone that is or is not in that group.
Well, I think we need to have a clear mechanism that we see who are the selected individuals moving to the next level, and so that, and I'm assuming that the council and the staff, or the council, the staff, and the community will have at the same time the opportunity to meet and greet and evaluate, and so that we're all presented with the same big group of candidates, but that only the council will have the ability to have included a candidate that, for whatever reason, is an outlier.
Yes, if I understand your question, basically, for the semi-finalist interview process, it will all be confidential. The candidates' names will not be released to the press or to the media. We will use confidentiality agreements for the staff panel members and also the citizen panel members to sensitize them to that issue. We will go through the process. You will interview the candidates that day as well. So there would be at this point in time, three panels, unless one panel grows extra large and we want to divide it, but I don't see that happening. So you'd have three panels, each interviewing the candidates individually. You would not deliberate until after you received input from the staff and the citizens panels, or if you wanted to reverse that order, you could deliberate amongst yourselves and then receive input from the staff and from the citizen group. Once that process is done, you narrow it down. Ultimately, you pick the top 2 or 3 candidates that are going to come back a week following for the finalist interview process. You expose them, you give access to them, to the community, and then you go into a more of a second round of interviews, which you get to ask questions that are more specific to the candidates versus just a set of questions that you can ask each and every candidate.
Jen?
I do have the question about, going back to earlier in the conversation regarding the consensus on profile. I greatly appreciate you going back and making edits to the profile in the first round via email. And at what point does the profile transform into a job description? I'm thinking about how these different committees, or these different groups, so you have the staff, the community, and the council, who are all interviewing these applicants and possible future town managers, and on what, without a job description, how are we to define how they measure up on the skill sets necessary for the position or the actual job description? At what point, you mentioned that you go into assisting with the negotiations. I'm sure when we're negotiating, is that up to council to come up with this job description, or is this something that your firm is going to assist in the process of?
No, the job description has been provided to me by the town, and I don't have that in front of me, but that also was looked at, considered as far as input into the position profile. I think the one thing that you need to realize is that our screening process will determine if the candidates have the capabilities to do the work. The technical questions, their experience in dealing with councils, in dealing with the public, in dealing with public sector type issues will be identified to the preliminary interview process. And then I think a lot of it comes down to, obviously we're going to have technical type questions. The staff, I'm sure, will want to know about the budgeting process, as I'm sure you will be too. but it's more about fit at that point in time, and particularly for the second round of interviews with just you, the council, it's can I sit down and work with this person in a work session? Do I see this individual interacting with nonprofits in a positive way? Do I see this individual standing up in front of a crowd with a variety of audience members and being able to connect with each one? These are the competencies that we'll be trying to flesh out as best we can through the interview process.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Phil, I just had one more. All those dates and events that you were rattling through, we've got a search schedule that doesn't have dates on it. It just says things like hoops to jump through. Could you send that to us in writing?
The position profile you should have copies of.
No, at the beginning.
I'm happy to,
No, at the beginning,
I'm
Phil,
happy to,
you were,
happy to send it to you.
you were talking about, and on this date this happens, and then by this date this will happen, and by this date this will happen. That's what I would like to see in writing.
Yeah, the
Yes,
dates.
because we do not have I have inputted all of your dates into the calendar, and I thank you for them, but for example, the 427, the public mixer, that's not provided on the dates. And so if you could provide us with a list of all the dates and what committees, who is doing what on what date would be great.
Right.
Okay. The idea of the mixer the night before was something that was developed after the position profile was complete.
Yeah,
I'll
we
be
do.
happy to send you a list of all the dates. I'll try to give you a target date as to when you'll receive the information on the candidates prior to the recommendation of candidates meeting on the 4th. A semi-finalist interview, okay, I'll do what I can.
Yeah, all the dates of when the citizen committees are hooking up and all of it.
Well, as far as the citizen committee, that would be for semi-finalist interview process on April 21st.
Okay, could you just send that to us in writing, please? All of the dates, and thanks, that'd be great. That's all I have. Anybody else?
I have a question, maybe I should know the answer. The citizen committee, each council member has identified somebody. Is there any kind of appointment process beyond that?
I mean, we're kind of down the road on this deal.
Okay.
We could, I guess, but
And so far, from my understanding of what our citizens, so far they're under the understanding that it's only for one date for a phone conversation with.
Yep, that's not, so we're gonna get this information from Phil that has what the things that are happening and the dates that are happening, so we can, be able to
Circle
communicate with
back
the
on that.
community,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Well, let me ask a question regarding the citizen council, or the citizen committee. Are they aware that they were going to be asked to participate in the interview process?
No?
They're not totally aware, except that they're gonna be asked to participate, and because I didn't know, I mean, I have suggested to you a couple of times what I would like to see, and it sounds like that's kind of the road you're going down. But if we could just get this information in writing, we can get it to these folks, and then they will, all of us will know, what our future's looking like here. Yeah.
I really would have to say I'm not very familiar with this citizen involvement process. I just became aware of it. I think it's a good one, and I just asked and I got Charlie Spicker to agree. And I think we need to refine it a little bit ourselves so we can be a little clearer. And I would just say a comment for your future, working with future town councils, Phil, that I'm looking at this search schedule that's attached to your memo you sent us, and what I don't see on it, and what would have been very helpful from almost day one, or the day after we signed our contract with you, would have been corresponding dates, and I think it would have clarified the process as we went on, and some of these issues would have come up. So that's something that I think in the future you might think about the benefit of that. I personally would have benefited from that approach.
Well taken. Thank you, sir.
I think we're good.
Let's see if there's any, let's run the.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, is there any other?
We all good?
No, I just think, like I said 100 times already, not to nag, but I think once we get this draft with the critical dates and the commitments, then we can, as Bernie said, make sure we're all on board with what is exactly happening. In case we want to tweak something, we need to tweak it immediately. Anybody else? Done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks so much, Phil.
I'm gonna close you off.
All right, thank you all. You take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Mayor, I move that the council adjourn the
We're
meeting.
Second.
Yeah, council.
That was good, though. That was good.